Life can change in an instant. For many wheelchair users, the struggle to push forward is a daily challenge.
After years of development and countless prototypes, we created Rib Grips, the revolutionary wheelchair hand rim covers with built-in ribs for ultimate grip and comfort.
No more slick surfaces, no more heat burns, just pure, reliable grip. Rib Grips, empowering you to push forward with ease. Rib Grips, get a grip on your freedom. Discover the difference. Visit ribgrips.com and use promo code GRIP today.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. The Waco History Podcast is sponsored by Brotherwell Brewery on historic Bridge Street in Waco.
Welcome to the Waco History Podcast. We're going to air for you over the next few months a special series of Waco History Living Stories. These were segments that were originally aired on KWVU here in Waco. They were produced by the Institute for Oral History editor, Michelle Holland, and narrated by two fabulous narrators, Louis Maze and Kim Patterson. And so these highlight oral histories from the collection of the Institute for Oral History at Baylor University, which I direct, which has been around since 1970 and has over 1,000 interviews related to Waco and McLennan County history, and we're happy to highlight those here. This segment of Living Stories draws from an oral history collection I worked on years ago with servicemen that liberated concentration camps in the spring of 1945.
Then the night came alive.
As the war in Europe was winding down in the spring of 1945, exhausted troops probably thought they were immune to being shocked. But knowledge of the atrocities committed in Nazi concentration camps was on the horizon. Nothing could have prepared them for that. Hank Josephs of Corpus Christi served in Intelligence and Reconnaissance during the war and recalls checking out reports of a concentration camp near the town of Dachau in late April of 45.
We got there, and the first thing we saw was a sign over the entrance which says, work will make you free, Arbeit Macht Frei. We went through the gate and we shot a few Germans. They were escaping. I looked at the prisoners in their striped garb, so filthy and decimated. One of them moved, and I went over to him, and he said, Bist I Yid, are you Jewish? And I said, Ich bin a Yid, I am Jewish. And then I told him, Alles geet, alles geet, I speak a little Yiddish. Alles geet, all is good, all is good. And I opened my sea ration and fed him a little soup, and asked him what his name was. His Meine namen is Herman Ich My name is Herman, too. He died 2 hours later in my arms.
Wilson Canifax of Fort Worth was a member of the 1110th Engineer Combat Group and heard about the Buchenwald concentration camp shortly after it was liberated. He decided to go see what it was and describes encountering a former inmate.
Before I got to the front entrance, there was a young fellow came up to me speaking perfect English, and he said, I see you have cross on your lapel. Are you a chaplain? I said, yes. He said, think you could do us a favor? I said, well, I could try. It turned out that this person talking to me was the young fellow, Eliezer Wiesel, who's known better today as Elie Wiesel. And he said, I'd like to take you through some parts of the camp here. Went through the main entrance, and as you've heard the expression, dead men walking. That's the way the people looked. I went to several of them, some who could speak English, and I talked a little bit with them.
Canifax explains he also led Jewish worship services, which was the second request of the young man.
So many of them wanted nothing to do with religion, but those who were genuine in their faith, and there was the opportunity to come to a worship service, they came. We got our carry-alls, those big trucks, and put the people who could be carried in those things to a place where we could have a worship service. They had to be lifted on, they had to be carried on, crying. They never thought they'd be alive. And we had some little prayer books that were distributed among those who wanted them. And on one side of it was Hebrew prayers, the other side was English. So as they went through the service in Hebrew, then I could follow along in English itself. They cried, they shouted. When they got through, they just raised their hands, sort of like our Pentecostals today they were just raising their hands in joy.
When the Nazi camps were liberated in Europe, Americans were encouraged to visit them, creating thousands of witnesses to this dark chapter of history. This edition of Living Stories was made possible by a grant from the Texas Holocaust and Genocide Commission to the Institute for Oral History.
Thanks for listening to the Waco History Podcast. Like what you heard? Subscribe, rate, and review our show on iTunes so we can reach more listeners. You can find show notes and info on every episode at wacohistorypodcast.com and more info on Waco's past at wacohistory.org. Our theme music, used with permission, is Cross the Brazos at Waco, performed by the late Billy Walker. For more info on Billy's music, go to billywalker.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.
Are you a podcaster? Let's talk podcast hosting. Are you tired of your current podcast host? Need real support in a community that gets it? At Rogue Media Network, we offer top-tier podcast hosting services to help you thrive. From hosting and distribution to dedicated support, we've got you covered. Starting as low as $25 a month. Join our community of passionate podcasters today. Contact us at hello@roguemedianetwork.com.